Welcome, Tiny Hands, Big Dreams, here on the homestead in southern Ecuador. Dentistry, dental appointments, dental care, dental procedures, dental bills. Right? There's a difference between the United States and Ecuador. Some people have asked, like, oh, can I get decent care there? Things. Yeah, actually, you can. Is it different? Yes and no. Is it fantastically less expensive? Yes.
Yes.
So my lovely wife recovering from yesterday having a upper rear molar. I think that's right. Removed. It had a cavity on the back side, and the other dentist, and he had a X-ray of it, and he's just like, "There's no. It's up against the gums, the back of your mouth. There's no way to get back there. It's a big cavity, and it goes deep, and like there's okay." So we opted to have it removed. So a molar removal. It's a minor surgical procedure. It went well.
Can I have background?
Background.
Or perspective?
Yeah.
I have terrible teeth. This is no fault of my own. I've gotten the lecture from dentists my entire life about taking care of my teeth, blah, blah, blah. I do. I have poor genetics when it comes to teeth.
Top of teeth, bad. Bottom of teeth, very strong.
Like the roots. The roots are just strong. So I have been to many dentists throughout my life. I have much experience with medical or dental care in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that was one of the main things when we moved to Ecuador. I was like, well, I'm going to have to find a dentist because I'm going to need one. It is not like some people who are like, oh, maybe someday I'll... No, I just know I'm going to need it. So we had found someone in Loja.
That's the closest we have to a primary care doctor.
And we'll do a lot of things ourselves, but when it comes to dental work, no, I'm gonna need a dentist.
Look, I got tools and all.
Nope, I'm gonna need a dentist. Gonna need a dentist. So we had found a dentist in Loja, who I have recommended before. He is very good. My experience with him was good.
Yeah.
He's very, very good. I was incredibly nervous to go to someone else. I'm like, wow, is anyone else going to be as good? So I was very nervous to go to a different dentist. But Loja being 3+ hours away.
Grinding up over the mountainy pass in a little bumpy vanny with an engine, and it's on its last legs.
We didn't want to make the trip for many reasons, and I really didn't want to have a tooth removed and then have to drive all the way back.
Bounce on down the mountain.
Historically, I've had teeth removed before. It is rather traumatic in multiple ways. So I was not going to do that.
The one before was like, 15 minutes, gets in there, wrenching, like, this is a large man. Like, he's 6'2", 3", something, like, he's arguing with us an hour later, and he's sweating, and he's like, okay, like, we got it out, and her poor face is... It returned to its natural pretty state. So
it was a pretty traumatic experience. Through no fault of the dentist, it's just my teeth. He did not want to pull one of my teeth again, so he recommended somewhere closer, which is interesting because there is also the thought, or at least I had the thought, of a good medical practitioner of any kind really only being in the cities, like the bigger cities.
Right.
Like Loja is our nearest big city. Well, it turns out even the dentists out here a bit further are pretty awesome. Oh, well, that's very close to my face. So I guess this video was my idea because I have seen things about, the dental care in Ecuador is so cheap. And while that is true, I don't really see anybody talking about the fact that it is good. Because, cheap medical care. That doesn't mean I want it.
It's like going to a restaurant and being like, yeah, well, you get a cheap meal. Is it any good?
Like, am I going to die?
Or is it just a pile of slop from Cisco delivery?
It's important not only, yes, the cost, because dental care in much of the world is astronomically expensive. It's also important that it is good care. So that's kind of what I wanted to highlight. That was all.
Yeah. So he sent us a recommendation of this lady who had a small office in Zumbi, which is some distance away from us, not too far. Not a big town.
No.
It's, according to some number I'm going to put on the screen, this big, according to the internet, which is not a big town. And then we had to sort of work around. There's power cuts, which they just raised to 14 hours a day because of drought. So we were like trying to set an appointment. She's like, well, I have to check the new schedule to see when the power turns back on.
Fair, I would like power for this.
Yes, please only schedule our appointment when you have power.
It's fair.
So we went in with like some special requests.
No.
We don't speak the Spanish.
Yeah, and that's because the guy we've seen in Loja does speak some English, and it's a little easier to communicate in the moment. He's trying to translate when you have your face open.
So I go to translate, and she just
Because you go to a dentist anyway, and they're asking you questions with their fingers in your face, and you're like, I can't answer you. Try then translating in your brain, and then trying to communicate. Oh,
so she just brains it to me, and I'm the designated speaker translator guy with phone.
It works relatively well.
We don't want the dentist touching his phone.
Yeah.
So it worked out pretty well. So that was the first thing of like, oh yeah, we don't really speak Spanish, so I have to translate everything. And then the next part of it was, I'm like, oh, she has a latex allergy, and she's just like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, you can't use latex gloves. She's like, oh dear.
Everybody uses latex gloves here, just
They're cheap.
for practice. Yeah.
So she dives into her drawer and she pulls them out, and oh, no, she had the
Nitrile.
nitrile. It's great, totally awesome. You got better kit. Okay. And then we get into like she needs a little more anesthetic than normal. That just her.
It's
Just her. It wears off quickly and it doesn't have the effect that you think it would. She goes, okay, it's not a problem.
There's also the fact that I guess here it is not common to use a topical anesthetic before the shot. I'm not a wuss to pain. I have history with needles that are not good.
A doctor did her
yeah.
seriously dirty, which has caused some serious damage and trauma.
So I don't like needles. Needles don't like me.
That's an
We're just not
understatement.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's rough. So like I really need to be numb for that part, which is not, I guess, common here.
She was very happy to comply.
She ended up going and getting the little kid like cherry flavored spray. Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
Fine with that.
it's fine. So she does that.
Super accommodating.
Right, starts doing the procedure, the thing, checking in on herself. I'm translating. It's going great. And then I said, oh, something we'd like to do. I should have asked beforehand.
Which we can't talk too much about.
I can't.
On the internet.
We brought with us a solution of a precious metal that is not gold, that we make at home, that is antibiotical. And we asked her to use that before she like closes the wound out.
I thought we might get a little pushback. I guess coming from the States, thinking like there is no dentist that I have ever been to that would be like okay with that. She's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she goes, that's fine.
She
takes it, looks at
she
it.
actually sprayed on her hands, like her gloves and some tools
Right.
and things.
And then she filled a little specimen cup, broke a needle, bent it to make like a washing one.
Yeah.
And then like straight irrigated, flooded after she got the tooth out, of which I managed to get a picture of by accident.
It's kind of cool and creepy.
Yeah. And she irrigated it, so we got the solution down in there, which we know from experience, if that's under the skin in a wound and a thing, there's no infection.
Yep.
It works out. But we've had a video removed for saying the words.
We won't say them.
We
I'm
can't
sure
say
you
them.
know what it is.
It's literally prohibited for us to say. Yes. Don't put it in the comments. Yeah.
And then there were no stitches, which is another thing. Of course, I haven't been to a dentist in the U.S. in several years. Perhaps things have changed. I have always had no stitches. Stitches suck. I hate stitches. They're just gross.
Yeah. She looked at it and she's like, no. She did take it and
This was new to me.
Yeah, she goes, oh, I have this. It's a collagen sponge. And we're like,
What's that?
don't know. And then she goes, "Can I use it? I put it in the hole. It absorbs. It helps it close. I guess it keeps it from going dry."
Well, it keeps food out of it as well. Because if you've ever had a tooth removed and you've had stitches,
Oh, I remember that. I actually had a really cool little like washing
I don't want to
syringe.
talk about it. It's
Anyway.
so gross.
So like, yeah,
I mean, like, I'm gonna trust her. She's done a good job.
she's done a good job. And then you said it actually tasted like cloves,
Yeah. Like, my mouth still tastes like clove a little bit.
which has medicinal properties.
It has numbing properties specifically. So it was.
Yeah, it was an actual like dental medical product. She had a pack of them in like plastic and things.
They were definitely soaked in clove.
So that's neat. And then, so pops it out, and she's a small woman. What would you say? She's like 110 pounds?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. She's very just petite.
Did you know that small women have tiny hands, and when you're trying to get your hands in a face, smaller is better versus giant man hands?
No, it's like you just gotta crank your mouth all the way open, and it's just like super awkward.
Nope, she just gets in there. Doot, 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 doot. So
super easy. She kept telling me to close my mouth more, and I'm like, you mean me close it? I've always had to like open it as wide as you can.
Yeah, so a win for the tiny hands, big dreams crowd.
Right. That's true.
Pops it right out, and then
it took like 10 minutes. I didn't even know it was out.
She's like, what? And he's like, he pulls it up like a trophy, and we're like,
oh, well, okay then.
You go. Total cost for the appointment, which took about an hour, beginning to end.
And realizing that there is no like office visit and then you schedule the procedure. You just go in and you tell them what's wrong, and they look at you, and then.
Now, I did have an X-ray from the other dentist that I WhatsApped over. I'm like, hey, we got this thing. That's not how much. When can you do it? And like, you just communicate with your dentist via WhatsApp, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. Especially when you don't speak Spanish, it's really nice because having that kind of conversation over the phone would be
nightmarish.
hard.
You're like, I don't know. She might have said yes or no, or
and then
something.
If you miss something, you get it wrong. And gosh.
So it works out. $40 covered all of the supplies and the equipment. The thing, all of her tools were little autoclave packets. Like sterilized neatly. Like her office was very clean. We always judge it starting from the bathroom and the waiting room.
Yep.
Is the bathroom clean?
Ah.
Yes.
Everything was
very
clean.
Very clean. Everything looked very sterile. She did a very, at one point she did have to use her phone, and she was using like her little finger because that one wasn't in your face. Like, okay, because your phone's not clean.
I don't think she had my gloves either.
That could have been. So, $40, tooth extraction supplies thing, something. Gave us a prescription for ibuprofen, which you actually don't need a prescription for. You can buy anything here in the pharmacy just by asking for it, from antibiotics to pain meds to.
Yeah.
I mean, there may be some narcotics or something that you have to have a prescription
but normal
for.
Basic things.
I don't know, but I've gone to the pharmacy and asked for some pretty crazy stuff, and they're just like, yeah, sure, how many you want?
Okay. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the dentist that we've been to in Loja.
Okay.
Because that was also a good experience.
Yes.
And he was the one who took a lot of. No, I guess if we go back to the last tooth I had out, which he took out, he wanted to do a root canal. That is his specialty.
It is.
We do not believe those things are good, and that is a whole long.
Our research has shown to us that root canals lead to a host of problems that we want to avoid. Therefore, we avoid that as a choice.
Yes, that means that I have lost more teeth than I would have otherwise. As much as that's a total pain and I don't enjoy that, I would rather simply remove the tooth than have other larger health compromises.
That can't always be traced back to the tooth.
Yeah. Or resolved any other way than removing the tooth, eventually anyway.
Which you think is already fixed.
Yeah. So, we ended up having that conversation with him. He was very open to it, even though that is his specialty.
And we straight said, like, it's terrible, you shouldn't ever do it again, and nobody should have it done. You need to just, like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, and he just explained the research, and this is this man's specialty, and he's like, interesting. And so then he actually, I think he went and did some research on it. Now he probably still does them, but
People probably still want them.
he was open to new information and doing some fresh research, which he had done before. We had problems with the fillings, and he had gone through.
Well, that was after I ended up having fillings, and they kept falling off my teeth.
Yeah,
just
there were some failures, and he kept researching different actual, and he got some very specialty, like new, like filling compound. He goes, this one works for this, for that, for the problems we've been having, even though it's a more expensive like compound. And
now I can't speak to all dentists, of course, but when he had to redo the same filling 3 times, maybe
one of them,
until we figured out the right thing to be using. And he did not charge us to fix the filling each time. He's like, no, my filling failed. I'm not going to charge you for something that failed, which there's no dentist in the U.S. that would do that. I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
So then we see, and occasionally across the internet has come people with like, oh, here's this dental bill for, it doesn't say what it's for, but it's $36,000 after the insurance deductible of $2,000. Like, what the heck did you get? Robotic gold teeth? Like, I don't even.
I can't even.
I am so far removed from that world of like the crazy cost of.
So
$40.
Like the fillings, I think are 20.
Fillings were 20.
And this is relatively across the board. I know that there would be some differences with
was
different
10,
dentists.
15, 20.
It was 20.
His was 20, but previously I think it was less. I don't know if this dentist here charges the same.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's a little bit of difference, but generally speaking, $20 for a filling. And again, I'm used to all of the different line items of costs. There is no appointment fee. There's no visit ahead of time, and then you schedule to do the thing. It doesn't work like that.
You go in, you pay cash, they do the work. Win.
And they see what's wrong.
And if there's something more, they're like, oh, like we could either like do it now if we have time, or we could schedule out in the future, and you could say yes or no.
Yeah.
Very nice woman.
Yeah. So we've had good experiences with dentists so far. Twice.
Yeah.
Once I'm like, well, maybe we just got really lucky. So
I mean,
twice now.
in the States, like, oh God, you fear having a dental problem because, oh God, like you're going to be bankrupt for the next year to try to pay for just getting back to where you were, an hour ago.
I've had to borrow money. I mean, it's rough because if you have a dental problem, you usually can't wait. It is an emergency or a near emergency sort of situation. You need to have it fixed. And if you can't afford it, then you are in the medical debt that no one wants to be in.
So that leads us to medical tourism and dental tourism.
Which is a thing. It's a thing here. Because it is cheaper here. And again, that's just, yes, it's cheaper. And that's great because everyone wants cheaper care. But it is also good.
It is good. Now, I will say, compared to the average U.S. dental office versus the average dental office here, the level of equipment, things, all the little, like, crazy specialty stuff in the cabinets, whatever, there's generally more in the U.S. dental office. Do you need all that?
Typically, no.
Typically, no.
I also believe they can get it if they need it.
They can get it. So when we look at all the different procedures and things that she lists that she does, no, she maybe doesn't even have all that capability existing at the moment, but she can get it in. She can they contract out with who does have specialty items.
Yeah. Which allows them to do all of those things without having the crazy overhead.
Yeah.
Just of purchasing all of those specialty items that they may not need regularly. So it honestly makes more sense.
Yeah.
And it makes it cheaper for us. Because they're not having to hike up prices to cover all of this.
I mean, it's like, oh, there's a dental problem. It's like, oh, no problem. Just call the dentist. Like, it's...
And there's usually not a crazy wait.
No, we contacted her and I said we actually wanted to plan it out about a week because there was a goat being born and a thing and the tooth was sort of like, he's like, I'm kind of alright. She's like, oh, can you wait that long?
It wasn't an emergency level. So
Or
I
like,
knew I could.
we could have had the appointment faster,
Oh yeah.
potentially within a day,
Mhm.
couple days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
All things I am not used to historically in my.
So there's
Life.
people. There was one that was what was it your mom had? Her dental.
Recently?
Yeah.
Root canal.
Root canal, and she paid how much for that?
I want to say it was like 1,600.
1,600. Right, which is cost of an entire airline ticket and a
I
fancy
wasn't
hotel
expecting
stay and a thing and a something and a this and a that and a bunch of fancy meals and a burro tour up into the mountains and a this and a fancy new hat and the dental visit and then go back home. You might break even. Might be a little better. If you needed two, oh, it's totally worth it.
I told her to just come here next time.
Yeah, like, yeah. So there you go. Part of why we like Ecuador. It's working out so far, at least in that respect, swimmingly well. I recommend it.
Yeah.
All right. As always, subscribe if you haven't. We talk about all sorts of cool stuff that you will miss if you're not subscribed. All the cool people do it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for the next one. Who's got short little legs? That chicken right there.